as another example of some of the techniques that I use in biblical meditation. And maybe you can pick and choose from anything inside of my comfort zone here that I'm going to show you and incorporate that into your own study. As I've said before, when we do biblical meditation, we're not doing anything that resembles what we would think of as Eastern meditation, right? We're not clearing our minds, and we're not levitating, and we're not chanting or doing anything repetitious that's designed to get us into a certain mental or emotional rhythm. What we're doing instead with biblical meditation is making sure that we contemplate on as many details of the text as possible. I describe it like putting a t-shirt in a dryer and just watching it turn over and fall an infinite number of ways. And that's what we're doing with the text. We're putting it in our head and just hitting it from an infinite number of ways. This is one of the texts that is most commonly quoted in the Myers home. We tack this onto the end of our evening prayers, prayers at meals and so on. So anyway, the second half of the verse here, Daniel 9:18b. For we are not presenting our supplications before you on account of any merits of our own, but on account of your great compassion. Daniel 9:18b. Sorry, I split that up there in a weird way. So I'll just get to it and show you what I do. Essentially, what you're going to see is you're going to see me pull apart every word and ask questions about that word being important. All right? For we are not presenting our supplications before you on account of any merits of our own, but on account of your great compassion. What is the for all about? I see an ellipsis before that, 3 dots, and so that's going to be the second half of a sentence. Let's see the first half of the sentence. My God, incline your ear and hear, open your eyes and see our desolations, and the city which is called by your name. For we are not presenting our supplications before you on account of any merits of our own, but on account of your great compassion. So back to just the second part of the verse. So Daniel is praying for the destruction that is upon them. He's in the Babylonian captivity. He's praying for the good of his people. And so as he asks God for good things, he's asking for deliverance from evil. And that is the tone of this prayer. All right. For we are not presenting our supplications before you on account of any merits of our own, but on account of your great compassion. Okay, by the way, notice the repetition here. Repetition is the mother of skill, and we want to be skilled in the text. For we, who is the we? What are we talking about here? We. So he is praying for all of Israel, as you see in the context of Daniel 9. So Daniel prays and offers up a prayer on behalf of others, and these others are God's people. Okay, so Daniel is acting like a priest. We equals priest. He's doing a priestly duty, which leads us in the New Testament to the great high priest, Christ-like intercession. Daniel is being like Christ in praying for his people, standing in the gap. Intercession. Love that word. Love that doctrine. He intercedes. For we are not presenting our supplications before you on account of any merits of our own, but on account of your great compassion. We are. This is present tense. He doesn't say we have not. He doesn't say we will not. He says we are not. Be in the moment when you pray. God is a God of real time. If that word had been different, this would be saying something different about the immediacy with which Daniel expects to be communicating with God, which, by the way, thinking about it, while he's praying this prayer, Gabriel shows up and gives him that prophecy about the 70 weeks. And so he is praying in real time. God hears him in real time. And this should inform our doctrine of prayer. All right, let's clear this out a little bit. Let's emphasize the next word. For we are not presenting our supplications before you on account of any merits of our own, but on account of your great compassion. So not, that's going to be probably the first part of, there's a duality, or a contrast, I should say. We are not, but we are, right? What are we not doing? What's he going to say? An argument from the greater to the lesser, from the negative to the positive. We are not doing something. For we are not. Okay, so he says, please hear our prayer right there. He says, incline your ear and hear. He says, open your eyes and see. And why does he say all of that? For, or because, we are not presenting our supplications before you on account of any merits of our own. Period. So we could, let's see, not. Boom. I could maybe get a more visible line there. So here's a unit. They are not presenting our supplications before you on account of any merits of our own, but on account of your great compassion. Had he been saying, God, please deliver us for we are righteous, then there would have been no reason in this prayer to expect that that would have reached the ears of God. In fact, he says, he essentially says, we expect this to reach your ears because we're not praying on our own merits, because we're not expecting to be heard based on our righteousness and our resume, but simply, why? Because of your great compassion. So not and but. For we are not presenting. That's what we do when we pray. We are not presenting our supplications before you on account of any merits of our own, but on account of your great compassion. We present, which is not the same as what's that? Enforce. Is that enforce or enforce? I think that's enforce. I don't know. English, dude. Not into it. All right. To present supplications is not the same as to enforce anything. We cannot cause anything to happen. We can simply bring our prayers to God. So present equals submission. It's request, not demand. And it's child to father. We are not presenting. Here's my prayer. Here's what I want. Will you accept this, Father? Okay. For we are not presenting our supplications before you on account of any merits of our own, but on account of your great compassion. So again, this goes along with the we. He's doing Christ-like intercession for his people, Christ-like intercession. And everybody essentially has the same prayer as it comes to national deliverance. Hear us and deliver or restore Jerusalem. And these are our supplications. All of God's people lifting one voice. That's a beautiful thing, by the way, right? Where it's a beautiful thing when brothers dwell in unity. I think that's somewhere in Proverbs, which I'm blanking on at the moment. It's a beautiful thing when brothers dwell in unity. Jesus says later on, if two or more of you agree about anything in my name, I will do it. We presenting our supplications. All right, next word. For we are not presenting our supplications before you on account of any merits of our own, but on account of your great compassion. Supplications. These are requests. These are, let's see here. Let's say requests, desires. Again, these are not demands. We don't enforce our preferences. We present our supplications. These are requests. These are questions. And then we let God answer because God is God and we are not. So notice the language of submission. So I'm going to go through here with blue. I'm going to thicken that up a little bit. Actually, I'll tell you what I'll do. Get some thick blue here, and we're going to mark all of the language of submission. For, even that right there, whoa, that got a little thick. Even that right there is a marker of submission because he's building a case before God. So God's not obligated to listen to him. And then they are presenting, and then these are supplications, and he brings them before you with a capital Y there in English. That's not in Hebrew, but that does accurately, it's a way in English that we can accurately reflect the tone of the passage. On any merits of our own, but on account of your great compassion. And so he's appealing to a characteristic of God there, which is the great compassion. So all of this blue, we see language of submission. So God is in charge. That's what we learn from that. I'll tell you what, I could go through the rest of this, but you see kind of how this works. We isolate every word. We emphasize it as we read through and repeat, and we go slowly, and we pepper the text with questions. We pepper the text with questions. If you want to, then you could start to study each individual word. For example, let's do this here. This word for great compassion is the word in Hebrew, chesed, or, in this case, it's like, better, chesdo, which is your chesed. Now, chesed is a beautiful word in Hebrew, which is very multifaceted. It's the idea of love, but also of commitment and of patience and of forgiveness and of basically everything that 1 Corinthians 13 says about love is wrapped up into, and then more also, the issue of covenant, all of that is wrapped up into this word of chesed, right? So he's calling on a very specific characteristic of God that nobody else really shares with him, and that is the reason that he expects this prayer to be heard, and the prayer is for deliverance of God's people in submission to a God that can be described with that kind of characteristic, and he's leaning on him rather than on the we. This is the opposite of the prosperity gospel. The prosperity gospel says, if you believe and if you are doing the right things to please God, then he will necessarily give you what you want when you ask for it and perpetuate whatever system you have going on, because you've got authority and you're a prince and a princess and whatever. This instead is, God, you are this way and we are dependent on your characteristics. And so we are submitted, but we will ask you questions and requests because you may grant us these things if it so pleases you. God is in control in a prayer like this. Beautiful prayer. All right, so we could do that with all of the words involved here, but I just wanted to give you guys a sample of one of the other ways that I've shown you some in the past. This is one of the ways that I do biblical meditation. You slow down, you repeat, emphasize one word at a time, and then pepper the text with questions.